Hello, welcome to Train Signal. You're watching this lesson on dynamic voltage and frequency scaling. In this lesson, you'll be learning what dynamic voltage and frequency scaling is and how it can provide dramatic cost savings for your vSphere environment. We'll be explaining how the technology behind DVFS works, the requirements for using DVFS, as well as how to configure it. Finally, we will cover some tips and best practices for DVFS and how you can combine it with DPM for maximum cost savings in your vSphere environment. You're probably familiar with the Distributed Power Management feature, also known as DPM, that was introduced in VI3 to help save on power and cooling costs by powering hosts off during periods of inactivity. There's also a little-known feature in vSphere called Dynamic Voltage and Frequency Scaling, also known as DVFS, that can help you save even more by leveraging a new CPU power management technology called Enhanced Speed Step by Intel and Enhanced Power Now by AMD. These technologies enable a server to dynamically switch CPU frequencies and voltages based on workload demands, which enables the processors to draw less power and create less heat, which also allows the fans to spin slower. Earlier versions of SpeedStep and PowerNow only supported switching between high and low frequencies. The enhanced versions also added support for varying the voltage of the processor as well. This is accomplished by an interface that allows the system to change the performance states, also known as P states, of a CPU. P states are defined by fixed operating frequencies and voltages that allow a CPU to operate at different power levels. Depending on the processor, there may be several different P states that it can operate in, with the lowest level being defined as Pmin for minimum, and the upper level defined as Pmax for maximum. For example, a 3.0 GHz processor will have a Pmax of 3.0 GHz, and might have a Pmin of 2.0 GHz, with several in-between P states like 2.3 GHz, 2.5 GHz, and 2.7 GHz. P states are operational states, meaning the processor stays operational and it just switches voltages and frequencies as needed. This differs from C states, which are idle states where the whole core is shut down. vSphere currently only supports switching P states, but a future release will support using C states as well. Processor P states can be controlled by either the system ROM or by an operating system. In vSphere, they are controlled by the VM kernel, which optimizes each CPU's frequency to match demand in order to improve power efficiency but not affect performance. There are not many requirements for using DVFS as long as your server hardware supports switching P states and allowing the OS to control it instead of the server hardware, then you can use it with vSphere. This usually requires server hardware that has power management technology like IPMI built into it, which most modern name brand servers should have. DVFS is not a vSphere licensed feature and can be used with any edition of vSphere, including the free ESXi version. Before you can use DVFS, you need to enable it in the server's BIOS. How to do this will vary from server to server, but will typically be labeled Power Regulator, Demand-Based Switching, Power Now, or SpeedStep. For HP servers, it is labeled Power Regulator for ProLiant and is listed under System Options in the BIOS. On an HP ProLiant DL385G6, you will see there are 4 modes listed in the BIOS for Power Regulator for ProLiant. The HP Dynamic Power Savings mode, which adjusts processor power used to match performance levels to the application load. The HP Static Low Power mode, in which the system's processors operate continuously at the lowest power state, which is Pmin. The HP Static High Performance mode, in which the system's processors operate continuously at the highest power and performance state, which is Pmax. And finally, the OS Control mode, in which the dynamic power management for the system is managed instead by the operating system through its policy mechanism. The default on HP servers is the Static High Performance mode. The option you want to use for vSphere to enable your host to take advantage of this feature is the OS Control mode. This allows the VM kernel to be able to change P states on the CPUs in a host to be able to conserve power whenever possible. Let's now take a look at a demo of changing the BIOS on an HP server to OS Control mode to support DVFS. Okay, here we've entered the BIOS of a Proliant ML110 G6 server. Now what we want to do is enable the power management for this server to switch to OS control mode, which will enable us to use the DVFS feature. So this is the main BIOS screen. We want to move over to Advanced, and you can see right up at the top here, it's called Processor Power Efficiency on this server. So if we hit Enter, we have three options. Performance, where it always runs at the high performance mode and never changes states. We have Efficiency, which lets the server hardware itself, not the OS, but the server hardware manage the P states of the server based on the demands of the server. And then Custom, which is right here. And in this case, Custom is the OS control mode. So once we select Custom and save and exit out of the BIOS and go back into vSphere, we'll then be able to use DVFS and change vSphere to dynamic to be able to control the P states of this server and to enable the power efficiency of features to take effect. In vSphere, you can verify that the power management feature is present by selecting the host in the vSphere client and choosing the Configuration tab, and then under Hardware select Processors. If you disable the feature in the BIOS or the server does not have the power management technology, then the processor configuration in the vSphere client will show that the power management technology is not available. If the server is equipped with it, then whichever technology is being used, which will be either AMD Power Now or Intel SpeedStep, will be displayed. Let's now look at a demonstration of verifying that the power management technology is available in vSphere. Checking to see if the power management technology is available in vSphere is pretty easy. You select one of your hosts, and you go to the Configuration tab, and select Processors. Right here it says Power Management Technology. On this server it says Enhanced Intel SpeedStep, so the server does have the technology present and it's enabled. If your server did not have the technology, it would say Not Available here. Now you also see a line that says Power Management Policy, set to Static. Now this is actually the vSphere setting and had nothing to do with the BIOS setting. The BIOS setting is separate, and to see that you actually have to go into the BIOS, and that's where you can see and view and change that setting. That's how we verify that the power management technology is available in vSphere on a host. vSphere will default to static mode, and to take advantage of this feature you need to change it to dynamic. Before you do this, it's important to note that if you do not have the server BIOS power mode set to custom or OS control mode, then DVFS will not work even if you set vSphere to dynamic mode. To do this, you select the Configuration tab in the vSphere client, then in the Software panel, select Advanced Settings. Next, select Power in the left pane, and in the right pane, change the Power.CPU policy from static to dynamic, then click OK. The static and dynamic settings for Power.CPU policy are defined as follows. Static is the default. The VM kernel can detect power management features available on the host, but does not actively use them unless requested by the BIOS for power capping or thermal events. When set to dynamic, the VM kernel optimizes each CPU's frequency to match the demand in order to improve power efficiency but not affect performance. When CPU demand increases, this policy setting ensures that the CPU frequencies also increase. Once you change this to dynamic, it takes effect immediately without restarting the host. Let's now look at a demonstration of changing the power management policy from static to dynamic. Okay, let's now look at changing the power management policy from static to dynamic so we can have vSphere control the P states of the server. To do that, we can currently see that it's set to static. Under Configuration Processors, the power management policy is static. So to change that, we want to select under Software, Advanced Settings. In the left pane, we want to select Power. Here's the Power.CPU policy, which is the setting that we want to change. It is the CPU power management policy. It can be set to static or dynamic. We're going to change that to dynamic. Click OK. That updates right away. So if we go back to Processors, we'll see that the power management policy is now dynamic. Now you don't have to restart the vSphere host for that to take effect. It takes effect right away. So now vSphere is in control of the P states of the server, so it's going to change the P states based on resource demand to help you save power. Here are some tips and best practices for using DVFS. Using this feature along with DPM can amount to some significant energy savings, especially in larger data centers that have regular periods of low workloads. Using these features is a must in virtual desktop environments, where almost 2/3 of the day and weekends typically see very little activity. DVFS will not impact performance in any way. vSphere is intelligent enough to manage this without affecting performance, and performance states can be changed instantly when needed without any delay. There is no way to monitor the operation of this feature inside vSphere once it's enabled, but some server management tools like HP's ILO management board will show you P state and power consumption information. Future releases of vSphere will most likely monitor power consumption inside a vCenter server's performance statistics, so you can see exactly how much power each host and VM is using. Here's an example of power usage on an HP ProLiant server using the HP ILO management board to see the power statistics. This shows the total power usage for the server, and you can see here when DVFS was enabled how it dropped and remained at a lower level as the server was mostly idle and not many CPU resources were being used. Here you can see the processor P state switching from P0, which is the Pmax or the highest processor state, to P4, which is the Pmin or lowest processor state. This happened immediately after DVFS was enabled in vSphere as the server was mostly idle. This server is a dual 6-core model, and you can see the P state for each processor and core. You can also see the in-between P states listed, such as P1, P2, and P3. The amount of P states that are supported will vary based on the server manufacturer. If this server had varying levels of CPU usage, you would see different P state levels ranging from P0 to P5, as the levels change based on CPU demand from the VMs. Here's a link to a white paper for HP servers that covers detailed information about P states and HP's power management technology that is built into their ProLiant servers. It provides information on the different power modes, how the technology works, and information about how to monitor server power usage using Inside Power Manager. DVFS is another great green feature that when coupled with DPM can really save you money in your vSphere environment. Even if you do not want to use DPM, you should consider using DVFS as it is simple and easy to set up and use, and it can only save you money. You may not get as big as cost savings as you would with DPM, but DVFS is a background feature that works on its own with no complications. I encourage you to take advantage of both these great features to make your data center as green as possible. In this lesson, we have learned what DVFS is and how it uses P states to dynamically change your host CPUs to meet the demands of the VMs. We also showed you how to configure and use DVFS so you can save money on power and cooling with very little effort. That concludes this lesson on DVFS. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.